Have you ever experienced this before? You want to say something in your target language and you see yourself translating from your native language to your target language. I believe we all have experienced it. If you want to be fluent in your target language, you have to think in that language. And if you're struggling with thinking in that language, this video is for you. Welcome back, guys. If you're here for the first time, I am Abraham Salako. I am a teacher that loves to design. I have been teaching English for the past 5 years in Kazakhstan, and also I spend my free time designing. I am a freelance designer, so I do a lot of things. I am multifaceted as a person. To make it short, this video is strictly about thinking in your target language. And this goes without saying that if you want to learn a language, I believe you should always recognize your purpose for learning the language. Somebody like me, my purpose to learn Russian from the beginning was, okay, I needed it for my day-to-day activities. Then it improved to, okay, I think I need Russian for business. Now, why do you need to recognize your purpose? Let's take example, English learners. You have English for academics, we have general English. The purpose of this is that it determines the depth at which you want to go learning the language. That being said, let's go to our first step of thinking in your native language. The first step is that you need to understand your target language's culture. Learning a language is not just about grammar, vocabulary, and everything, verbiage. No. Learning the language is more than that. You should be able to decipher, you should be able to think and understand where this person, especially when they're native in the language, where the person is coming from when they speak to you. There's an example for this. We all know English as the business language of the world, but there's a reason why English is the business language of the world. It's because English is extremely diplomatic. There are subtle ways to convey even negative emotions that even the recipient will accept it wholeheartedly. You can tell somebody to go to hell and is that acceptable by YouTube? I don't know. You can tell somebody to go to a bad place and the person will definitely look forward to doing that. That is English language for you. Russian is a direct language. I think it's as a result of the inability to use, let me say, auxiliary verbs. We also have auxiliary verbs in Russian, but we usually don't impute them in sentences. For example, I give an example a few days ago that Russian speakers come direct. I have had one of my students say something like, I interpreted as "you're stupid," but he actually meant it in a different way, saying he didn't agree with my method at which I approached the task, and he would rather I approached it in a different way. Understanding the context is super important in you thinking in the target language. Step 2 is about killing off translation. Now, emphasis on kill off, not stop, not don't use. Kill off. Why have I said this? I believe translation is extremely important to use when you start. As a beginner, when you find the word, you should be able to translate and understand quickly in your native language. It makes it easy and it makes it faster to understand. However, when you get to points like B1, B2 level of that target language, be it English or any other languages. For example, my Russian level is now at the point, I think I am B2 level Russian now, and I am at a point where I get to see synonyms of words I learn in Russian. For example, I can say polojit, postavit, взять, возьми. So now I understand that anytime once you start to get to the point where you find synonyms of words, you don't have to translate. And that is where you get to kill off your translation. Now when I learn some Russian words and I know this actually meant something maybe a few months ago or in my previous levels, I don't translate to English. I leave it that way and I write the Russian meaning right in front. And also take note that once you're doing that, if you have bilingual dictionary, switch to a monolingual dictionary. Look out for meanings of the word, not the translations of those words. Look out for the meanings. Okay, what does this word mean in the target language? Don't search for it in your native language. And when you have the meaning, write it down in the target language. This way, it helps you, number one, learn new words, and number two, improve your thinking in the target language. Step 3 is to go for phrases and sentences. You can still continue learning new words, singular words, but you can try as much as possible to go for phrases or sentences. Why have I said this? I have had issues where I teach, most of the time I teach beginners to advanced level English, but there's this specific level that I kind of have, I don't want to say problems, but a bit of issues with when we talk, and that's my B1, B2 level student. There's a specific sentence that confuses them, and this sentence is, I used to do something, and I am used to doing something. A mere look at these, to a Russian speaker, they think it's just a grammar change. I used to, because they understand used to is раньше был, like something that I did before but now I no longer do. So you say I used to play football. I used to, which means I don't play football anymore now. Now, I am used to playing football. In English language, it's not just a grammar change, it's a total change. I am used to means I am adapted to doing that. Apart from using, you can say I am used to the weather, which means my body is now changed and adapted to this weather. A Russian speaker trying to translate the two sentences. The first sentence is I used to play football. It goes я раньше был, which means the same thing, before now. And I am used to playing football is я привыкла. My Russian speakers have a huge headache when it comes to this. Why is it that in English it's just a small grammar change? I tell my students, this is the point where you stop translating. When you have sentences in English or in any new language you've learned, do not overcomplicate them by breaking them down and try to see how they fit into your language. Something in your brain might tell you, if I don't break them down, I might not understand it. It's a huge lie. Let it be, just understand it. My last and final step, which is step 4, is to focus your input on listening to podcasts or watching TVs in your target language. If you haven't seen my last video, I would advise you check it out. It's about input. I talked about input learning and output learning. Focus your 30% of input on learning in your target language. Anytime you're watching a film or something, put the movie or film in your target language voice, and you can also put your subtitle in your native language. If you can combine the steps, I promise you at the end of the day, sometimes I stay in class and I just look back and say, wait, what's this word in English? Because at the end of the day, I found myself thinking in Russian, and then I ask my students, they sometimes don't believe me, like, really, you don't remember, and you are my teacher and you don't remember the word. It happens because I, at the time, even as an English teacher, I have conditioned myself into watching films in Russian language and also thinking everything around me. I am also a learner, even as a teacher. So it's easy that sometimes when people ask me, what language do you think in? I sometimes have to pause and think just to check the language. So it happens. You are conditioning your brain. You will be surprised by the level at which your brain is just conditioned and used to you speaking and thinking in your target language. This is where I stop. If you're here for the first time, I encourage you to like and subscribe to my channel. I am new, still growing, and I hope to always give you the best. So thank you for today. See you. I promise to be back again every time you want me. So goodbye.